Okay, my first video on the Allergic Hobby channel is Friley. Now that's an unusual shaped arrowhead, and I get asked questions right away. Why is it that you've got like upturned barbs on arrowheads like that? And in general, why do some arrowheads have weird shapes and stuff? And is there a specific reason for all that? Uh, it's a difficult question to answer, right? Of course, everyone's got their own little theories. But what I can tell you is that as the size of the arrowhead decreases, the shape or the importance of the shape also decreases. So you can have weird shapes with small arrowheads and it doesn't do very much in terms of favor or hinder penetration or effectiveness of the arrowhead. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Frileys are usually very tiny, so any strangeness in their shape isn't going to affect the wound very much. It's not going to affect penetration very much. There are tests, and some of you guys can probably link to it, or if I can find it, I'll link to it. There are studies that show that serrations compared to non-serrations have pretty much the same effect on penetration. An arrowhead with serrations or little sawtooth projections on the edge, or a flat straight edge, have basically the same penetrating value. Now cutting, once it's in the wound, secondary effects after the wound, I think that might be up for debate. But as far as penetration or pass through or damage to tissue on impact, it's all going to be pretty much the same. It's been shown for serrated or non-serrated. And as the arrowhead gets smaller, the effect is similar. Not much change between straight-sided arrowheads and these weird arrowheads as far as penetration goes. Like I said, secondary effects could be different. And I don't really know why they made these arrowheads that way, if it's cultural or if it's ceremonial. I'm not going to take a guess on that, although there's probably some of that going on. The only one feature that I can tell you for sure from experience makes a difference is the needle tips on arrowheads. Okay, the long, thin, skinny arrowhead bodies with the long, skinny tips, or just sometimes they have a fat body and go into a little skinny tip. So, two reasons for needle tips. One, I've seen anecdotes, which is, kind of dicey, but I've seen anecdotes where guys have said that it penetrates fur and hide better with a needle tip. Okay, that I don't know. I don't know if that's been tested, but there are anecdotes, and I'll get into that. There's also from personal experience, the effect of causing infection with a long needle tip. A deep penetrating wound will carry bacteria into areas of the body that are difficult to defend against, as far as bacteria and infection. The deeper the wound, the more likely it is, or the more in danger you are of becoming infected with some bacteria, or even the breakage of the tip in the body can float around and cause trouble. Right? This is a secondary effect. And the story on how I know about the effects of a deep penetrating wound is I recently, in my absence, got bitten by a cat. My niece's cat, we were babysitting the cat, got outside by accident. He was supposed to stay inside. Well, we have another cat outside that stays out there permanently. Anyway, they're both males, right? So they saw each other and they were going to fight. You could tell right away. So I picked up my niece's cat to bring him in, and he turned around and bit me in my hand. Okay, twice. He bit me on my hand here and on my wrist. So I just let him go, and we didn't see him for 2 weeks, and that's a different story. But what happened was I thought it was, it hurt pretty bad, and I haven't been bitten by a cat that way before. Uh, so I washed it up real good, and I noticed right away there was a lot of pain and redness right away. Well, it just got worse and worse. I've got pictures that show that my right hand blew up with swelling, and I got an infection, and I had to go to the hospital. I got scared. A couple of days later, it still hadn't healed, and it got worse. And they said, yeah, you need to stay in overnight because we need to give you antibiotics and stuff, because this can be dangerous. It can spread. So that's the first time I've been hospitalized from a cat bite. Okay, it was because of the deepness of the penetration of the tooth into my hand right here. Okay, you can barely see where the tooth went in. Right, there was a little hole, but it went in deep enough that the bacteria from the cat's mouth caused an infection, and I had to get on heavy-duty antibiotics for two days. Okay, and then everything was fine. So the needle tip, I believe, the primary purpose is a secondary effect of causing infection and death in the target later on. And this is not a hunting application. This is an application for war or for defense. Okay, you don't want to mess with a tribe that uses arrowheads that will cause infection if you get hit by them. I think that's a deterrent because it's a long-term effect. The attacker will retreat and then die off somewhere other than the area where you're fighting. Okay. Now I suppose you can attack with weapons like that, hit the population with a large number of these type of weapons, and maybe or maybe not be poisoned. They get infection. They all, well, not all, but many of them die, and then you can move in. Okay, that's another grim prospect there. So I guess there's two possibilities there. But the needle tips, I believe, are mainly for warfare and not for hunting. And it's just anecdotal evidence that I have for that. Okay. And anecdotal evidence is valuable. I mean, there's a saying that says the plural of anecdote is data. Okay, so you have enough anecdotes, you have some data. All right. Anyway, let's see here. The strangeness of the shapes of the arrowheads. Okay, I went over the basic concepts. It really doesn't matter when you get small. The larger ones, I might discuss those on a separate basis. Okay, the large ones that have weird shapes, they're probably talismans or amulets, right? You can wear around your neck or keep as good luck charms. That's what I think. There's some arrowheads coming up. I've got a long list going up. I'm not going to tell you what they are on the Allergic Hobbit channel. Okay, so that's it. I really don't have an answer for you on a good answer for why these Friley points have that weird shape, other than it just looks cool. All right.